Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us. My friend Patricia Gordon shared her recipe for Amish Sugar Cream Pie. And as beautiful as it was, I knew I couldn't eat it as it was because I'm diabetic and it has a lot of sugar. So I decided to devise an Amish sugar cream pie that is a low sugar alternative. I have included both versions in my ingredient list. You can pause and write them down, and then let's get cooking. So let's go over our ingredients. I have here a cup of heavy whipping cream, 1.5 cups of half and half, 2 tablespoons full of Splenda brown sugar blend. You would use a 1/4 cup of regular brown sugar. This is 2 tablespoons full of pure vanilla extract, an 1/8 teaspoonful of salt, and this is a 1/2 cup of Splenda. If using sugar, use 3/4 of a cup. Then I have a 1/4 cup of cornstarch and a stick of butter later. I don't have it out yet, but I'll show it to you when I'm ready for it. So this is so simple. Put all your dry ingredients into a heavy bottomed pan, and you do want it to be a heavy bottomed pan. I have enameled cast iron here, but this would stick very easily, so you don't want to use a thin pan. All the dry ingredients in, and I'm going to just mix them together with my little whisk. You could sift it. You know, I saw probably 24 different versions of Amish sugar cream pie, so I felt like it was okay if I just sort of combined some of those, there goes my salt, and adapted them for those of us who just can't handle that much sugar. And I should probably mention, just in case it's not obvious, I don't have the heat on yet. I'm just putting all this in the pan. And the wet ingredients now, and whisk it pretty good. It really shouldn't lump, but you should whisk it, really get with it a little bit just to make sure we don't have any lumps. And if you didn't notice, there are no eggs in this recipe. It's thickened with the cornstarch and the heavy cream, and you know, it's really very velvety. So I'm turning my heat on now, and I'll go ahead and turn it up pretty high, almost to the highest, and I'll leave it there until I start to get a simmer. And you don't have to stir it constantly, but you want to give it a really good whisk about every 30 seconds, and it'll probably take, 3 or 4 minutes for it to start to thicken up. And so we're just going to let it go a little bit. I'll do a little time lapse for you. And we're just starting to get some little bubbles around the edges. And yeah, you got to stir it or it'll stick. This is basically just milk, sweetened milk with some flavoring. So you have to stir it really well or it will stick. And after about 3 minutes, and you see those great big bubbles, it gets thick and creamy and velvety and rich. And then you turn your heat off. See those bubbles? When you see those, turn your heat off. And then add your stick of butter. Now I'm adding a whole stick of butter because I want it to melt kind of slowly. And as it melts, I'm going to just whisk it in, incorporate it in to the mixture here, to the cream mixture. And this is all with no heat. So just stir it until the butter has all dissolved. And you're going to give this a little taste now. Taste it for sweetness, taste it for salt, because you know it can't be really good and sweet without just a touch of salt. And I think this one's ready. I'm going to get my pie crust out. I want to time this so that your oven is preheated to 375 at this point. I made this pie crust earlier in the day, egg washed it, and refrigerated it. And we're going to pour this up, and you need to work pretty quickly because this filling is a dairy product and it will skim. So have your pie crust ready, have your oven preheated, have everything ready when you pour it up. And I'll get a little scraper here to get the rest of it out. don't want to miss a bit of it. And already it's forming a little skim. And now the brown sugar spice mixture, I'm going to sift it on. And I'm really not very good at this, not very handy. I probably need a different tool. But I'm going to just sift it through this little hand sifter and try to get it fairly even. And I'll tell you now that I don't succeed, but it doesn't matter because it's all going to caramelize. And even if it's not 100% evenly spread, it's going to be very pretty. And the top of the pie will bubble anyway, so it'll move around. I am going to try to straighten it out just a little or even it out. Brown sugar just doesn't go through the sieve very well. So I'll rub my fingers on it and get a little more of it out. And don't mind if a little bit gets on your crust, because as I say, it's going to caramelize and it'll be very attractive. Into the oven for 30 minutes, 35 if we need it. And I let it go 35 minutes because I wanted my crust to be browned. And yes, I made this pie crust. See how that jiggles? That's okay. It'll set up in the refrigerator. I'll post the pie crust link in the info section, by the way. Here is a slice that I made yesterday after overnight refrigeration. It's very firm. Do not try to cut this pie hot. Really refrigerate it. Let it cool an hour and then refrigerate it several hours. Overnight's best. And see the texture? This is really just yummy. And if you're diabetic or you don't eat much sugar, this is just perfect. Satisfies the sweet tooth. You get to participate with everybody else eating dessert. And it's just wonderful. It's like a custard, but with no eggs. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. Hope to see you again tomorrow.